When I eat Chinese food, I don't use chopsticks. Now let's build daily interaction number 6. Hey, what's up everyone? John with WebDev for you, and welcome to the Daily Interaction series, where every weekday we build a new interaction or animation in Webflow. Today we're going to build a full screen menu with a menu item animation. So here when I click on the menu trigger, we see the menu opens, and then when I hover over the menu items, we have this nice animation. All right, looks good. So first we're going to build all the elements for the menu, and then we're going to add the interaction. So it can make for a really interesting menu for your website. To view more daily interactions and premium content, visit webdevforyou.com. Also be sure to subscribe below to receive a notification every time there's a new daily interaction. Okay, so here I have a blank Webflow project, and we'll start with the daily interaction class naming convention. So it's the daily interaction number, so today is 6, and then the element. So every element on the site will have a D-6 in front of it, and this is for consistency purposes, and so that we know we're working with daily interaction number 6. All right, so the first thing I'll do here is add a section. So I'll add an element, I'll add a section, and I'll give this the class name D-6 section. For the height, I'll set it to 100 VH, so it spans the full height of the viewport, and it will be the full width as well. Then I'll scroll down to background. I'll set the background color to black here, and I'll go to display setting, and actually for this we don't need a display setting because we're going to add the entire menu to this section. I would want to set this to relative though, because the full screen menu is going to be positioned absolute within this section, and I want it to be relative to the section and not relative to some other parent element. So by setting it to relative, anything inside of it will be relative to it. All right, so now we can add the menu. So here I'll add an element, I'll add a div block, and I'll name this D-6 menu wrapper. Okay, and for this, I'll give it a position of absolute, and I'll set it to full, so it fills the entire parent element. So this menu will also be 100 VW. It'll be the full width of the viewport, and it will be the full height as well. And actually, instead of absolute, I want to say fixed for this, so that if we have scrolling to the site, no matter where we are on the website, the menu will fly in. All right, and also I want to set a background color to white. So yeah, the background of the menu is going to be white. All right, looks good. And I also want to set a display setting of flex. And for this, I'm going to say vertical, and I'm going to justify center and align center because I want the menu items to be in the center. Looks good. All right, so the next thing I'll do is I'll add an element. And for this, I'm going to add a link block because I want my menu items to link out to something. So here with the link block, I can link it out to a URL, a page section, email, telephone number, or a file. All right, and I'll give it the class name D-6 link block. Okay, and now I want to add the menu item text. So for this, I'll add an element, and I'll add a text block, and I'll give it the class name D-6 menu item text. So we notice it has kind of this funky blue color with an underline, and that's because the text is inside a link block. So Webflow is saying, hey, this is a hyperlink, so it gives it this styling. So what I want to do here is go into the navigator. I'll select the link block, I'll go back to styles, and then I'll scroll down to typography. And here for the typography, or actually, yeah, right here, instead of having an underline, I'll say underline none. All right, and there we don't have the underline, and now I'll click back on the menu item text, go back into styles, and I'll change the font type here. So actually, let me rename it first. So here I'll say home, and I'll select it. And then for the type, I'll say circular black, and then set black for the font weight. I'll set the color to black. And for the font size, I'll set it to something like, yeah, let's do 84. And then the line height, I'm gonna do 100 pixels. So this 100 pixels is gonna be really important because that's the height that we're gonna set the link block to. And this will be a bit more clear in a second. So yeah, there we have that. I'm also gonna set the text transform to uppercase. There we go, and looks good. So if we notice on the demo, if I open the menu, we have, this is actually 2 text blocks. And in the interaction, we're having them move up 100%. So what I want to do here is, let me go back into the interaction, is I'll copy this text and I'll paste. So now we have 2. And I want to select the second one. And for this, I'm going to give it the combo class of second for the second text block. And I'll just click OK there. And for this, I'll give it this magenta color. So because we gave it a combo class, we can now apply its own properties to the text block. So we just changed the text color. All right, looks good. So I'm going to have 6 menu items. So let me see there, home, about, and talk. So here I'll select the link block in the navigator. I'll hit Command C to copy, and then Command V to paste, and Command V to paste again. So I have 6 menu items. And for this one, I'll just change the text to about, and also for the second one, and this one I'll say talk. Okay, yeah, talk, and I'll double click here and say talk. All right, so there we have the 3 menu items. Now this is where the really interesting part happens. So I'm gonna click on the D-6 link block. I'm gonna go into styles, and for the for the overflow, I'm gonna set it to an overflow of hidden. Or actually, before we do that, let me set the height of the link block to 100 pixels. So we know that the line height of the text block is 100 pixels. So that text block is 100 pixels in height. So that's the same height I want to set the link block. So I'll set it to 100 pixels. And notice we can see the text, the pink text. But if I set an overflow of hidden to the link block, we no longer see the second text. And that's because anything outside of the 100 pixels is not visible because we set the overflow to hidden. So yeah, I'll just do it in kind of a reverse way. So overflow visible. So I'll set the overflow hidden, and then we'll set 100 pixels, and we don't see the pink text. All right, so that's what we want to set for the link block. Yeah, 100 pixels in height and an overflow of hidden. And now we just have the menu items, and looks good. So what I'll do now is we'll create the menu item hover animation. So this animation here, and then we'll have the menu fly in, and we'll have the text reveal. So if you notice with the demo, once I open, it kind of reveals the menu items, and I close it, it covers them, and then closes. So here I'll go back into Webflow. So let's create the menu item animation. So I want this to occur when I hover over D-6 link block, and they all have that class name. So here I'll go into interactions. I'll click on, it's going to be an element trigger. So I'll click the plus, and it's going to occur on mouse hover. So I'll select it here, and on hover, I'm going to start an animation, and I'm going to add a new timed animation. So I'll click the plus here, and I'll name this D-6 mouse in. Okay, so on mouse in, I want both the first text block and the second text block to move up 100%. So all I have to do here is click the plus, or actually I have to select the text first. So I'll select D-6 menu item text, go into the interaction. Here for the timed action, I'll click the plus, I'll say move, and I'm going to move it up 100%. So I'm going to enter in negative 100% on the y-axis to move it up. So yeah, on move, I can move it X, Y, or Z, and we're going to move it on the Y to move it vertically. So here I'll say negative 100%. Okay, and for the easing, I'll say ease out expo, and a duration of 0.5 is okay. So we notice, like if I preview now, just the first text goes up. So what we want to do is actually affect a class, because both the first text and the second text have the class name D-6 menu item text. So Webflow makes it really easy to target class names rather than just a specific element. So here where it says affect, I can affect a class. So action will affect multiple elements with the same class. So here if I select that, that's all I have to do. Oh yeah, and the other thing I have to do is make sure I'm affecting only children with this class, right? Because now if I preview, if all the elements with the class name menu item text are affected, if I preview, they all animate. But I just want to affect the child element of the interaction trigger and not all of them. So because we know, if we go into the navigator, we know that D-6 menu item text is inside the link block, which is the interaction trigger. It has the green circle with the lightning bolt symbol. Only these will be affected because, these are child elements of the interaction trigger. So here where it says I want to select only children with this class, action will affect only the elements inside the interaction trigger. So I'll select that. And now when I preview, only the first one is animating. So the next thing I want to do, because I want this to occur on every menu item, so rather than just affecting that first link block, so we see this one is only affected, I want to go back into the interaction. I'll close this here. Then here where it says trigger settings, rather than triggering an element, I want to trigger a class. So this is going to trigger on all elements with the same class that have D-6 link block. And that's exactly what I want. So now if I preview, or if I go into the navigator, all the link blocks are an interaction trigger. So I'll go ahead and preview, and just like that, it's occurring on all menu items. So now we want to set the hover out state as well, so that when we hover out, it goes back down to 100%. So here on hover out, I'm going to start an animation. I'm going to duplicate the mouse in, so I'll click the three dots and say duplicate. I'll select D-6 mouse in 2, and here I'll select this timed action, and rather than moving it up -100%, for the Y, I'll just say 0%. And that's it. So yeah, we can see it here, it's the Y. The Z is kind of cut off here because of the resolution, but we just need the Y. So I set it to 0% and the same easing of ease out expo and a duration of 0.5. And all the settings are the same. We're affecting a class and only children with this class. So now if I preview, I hover over, both texts move up. If I hover out, they both move down. And there we go. That's how we create the menu item animation on hover. Looks good. All right, so the overflow hidden is really important for this one, so we don't see the text, the second text outside of the link block. Yeah, link block. Okay, so that was the first step. Now let's move into creating having the menu fly in, and then having the text or the block reveal the menu items. So for this, what I want to do is I want to select the link block, and I'll go into styles. And yeah, actually for this, I want to set it to a position of relative for the link block, because we're going to place an absolute position div inside of the link block. So I'll set it to relative. I'll add an element. I'll add a div block, and I'll name this D-6. We'll call it block reveal. And I'll set it to a position of absolute, set it to full, so it fills the entire link block, and I'll give it a background color of white. Okay, and for this, so there we have the block, and I can just copy and paste, and then paste into each link block. All right, so there we have the blocks. So now what we can do, because we need a menu trigger. So if we go to the demo, we see that this is the menu trigger, and we'll create this in tomorrow's daily interaction, this kind of menu trigger that turns into an X. But yeah, we do need a trigger to open the menu. So let's go back into the project. I'll select the menu wrapper, and I'm actually gonna set it to a display of none, because I want it hidden right now so I can add the menu trigger. So here I'll add an element. I'll add a div, or actually, let me undo that. we want to select the section. I'm going to place the menu trigger in the section. So I'll add an element, I'll add a div block, and I'll give this div block a class name of d-6 menu trigger. I'll give it a width and height of 50 by 50, and I'll give it a position of absolute, and I'll place it in the upper right, and I'll give it a background of this magenta color here. So this is just for demonstration purposes. You probably want something a little bit more interesting, like an icon that opens the menu. But yeah, sorry, we just need a menu trigger. So what I'll do now is, yeah, we have the menu trigger. So I'll go back into the navigator, I'll select the menu wrapper, go into styles, and I'll set the display setting back to flex, so we bring back the menu. In this case, the menu trigger is on top, which is great. If it wasn't, I would go to the Z index and set it to a higher Z index value, so that menu trigger is always on top, because yeah, we want to open the menu and we want to close it. So we just want to make sure that when the menu is open, that we can still see the menu trigger. All right, so now we can create the menu flying in and the blocks revealing the menu item. So for this, yeah, I'll select the menu trigger. I'll go into the interactions. It's going to be an element trigger interaction, so I'll select the plus, and we're going to select on mouse click or tap. And on first click, we're going to start an animation. I'll add a new timed animation, and I'll call this d-6 first click. All right, and for this, the first thing I want to happen is I want the menu wrapper to come in from the right to the left. So I'll select it here, d-6 menu wrapper. I'll go into interactions, and I'll add a new timed action, and I'll say move. Okay, and for this, I'm going to move it on the X so it moves horizontally 100%. Okay, so I'll enter in 100%. Yeah, 100% there. The menu moves all the way to the right, and I want it to be the initial state so we don't initially see it. And then I want the menu to move in to the left. So here I'll add a new timed action. I'll say move, and I'll move it to 0% on the X axis, so it goes back to its original position. For the easing, I'll set it to ease out expo, and a duration of 0.5 is okay. So now if I preview and I click, the menu flies in from the right. So now we want the blocks, the blocks here to move to the right so they reveal the menu items. So I can select it here in the navigator, or actually, yeah, I'll select it here in, or the designer, I'll select it here in the navigator, d-6 block reveal. So I'll go into interactions, and I'll add a new timed action. I'll say move, and I'll move it on the X 100%, so it moves to the right. So I'll say 100%, and as we can see, it reveals the menu item. And for this, I'm going to set it to an easing of ease out expo and a duration of 0.3. Okay, so I want to apply the effect. It's going to be a staggered effect. So the first one's going to reveal, and then the second one, and then the third one. So what I can do is I can right click, duplicate, right click, change target, and I'll select the second block here. So that reveals. Go back into the interaction, right click, duplicate, right click, change target, and I'll select the third block so they all reveal. And I want them to start at the same time, and I'll add a bit of delay to it. So yeah, so that it has the staggered effect. So I'll just click, hold, and drag and place them on top of each other so they start at the same time. So if I were to preview, so the menu opens and then the text reveals. So I want to add a stagger between them. So I'll add a stagger of, let's say 0.2 seconds. So the first one doesn't have any delay. The second one, I'll start at the bottom actually, so they all stay in the same location. So the second one will have 0.2, and the third one will have 0.4. So I'll enter in 0.4 for the last one, and then 0.2 for the second one. So I'm starting from the bottom, so yeah, so that Webflow doesn't reorder the block reveals. Yeah, because they all have the same class name, so I want them to stay in the same place so I know which is which. So now I'll preview, and I'll open, and they reveal. And there we go. So that's basically it. Yeah, I'll preview again, I click, menu opens and they reveal. So now what I can do, because we want to create like the reverse animation when we close the menu. So I'll close this here. And then on second click, we're gonna start an animation. And for for this, I'm gonna duplicate the first click. So D-6, first click. So I'll click, I'll duplicate, and I'll select it here, and I'll click in, and I'll call this D-6 second click. Okay, so for this, what I want to occur, I want the block reveals to cover the menu items first, and then the menu to close. So all I have to do here is kind of move everything up. So yeah, I'll move, and actually, yeah, for this, I don't need it to be an initial state, so I'm going to remove it as the initial state. I'm wondering if I need this here. No, I think we can delete this. Yeah, I'll go ahead and delete that first timed action that had the initial state, and then I'll just reorder these block reveals. So I'll just put them on top of each other, and then I'll just change the timing. So the block reveal with a delay, or actually here, yeah, I can do it this way. So we want the third block reveal to go first. So yeah, so that'll go first, and then the second one, we want to set it to a delay of 0.2. So it'll go from the bottom 0, then 0.2, and then 0.4. So it goes in the reverse order. So yeah, for the second one, I'll set it to a delay of 0.2, and then the first one, I'll set it to a delay of 0.4. Okay, so it goes 1, 2, and 3. And we also want to make the blocks go back to the original position. So rather than 100%, we want to set it to 0%. So here on the X, I'll set it to 0% for all the block reveals. So 0%. Okay, so yeah, they all go back to 0% to cover the menu item. And then I want the menu wrapper to go to 100%. So the blocks cover the text, and then the menu closes or moves to the right. So here for the position on the X, I want to set it to 100%. So it goes back all the way to the right. And an ease out expo of 0.5 is okay. So now I'll preview, I open the menu items reveal, I can hover, looks good, and I can close. They all get covered and close. All right, and that's it. Looks good. Okay, so one other thing I'll cover really quick is, let's say you want the menu to come in and also the block reveals to be occurring at the same time. It could make for a slicker type of animation. What we can do is start the block reveal with the menu opening. Okay, so yeah, and I'll have to re-add the delay. So I'll say 0.4 and 0.2 for the delay. So now while the menu is opening, the blocks are revealing. So now I'll preview, I'll open, and it's a bit quicker. It's kind of a bit more subtle. You see the animation a bit more subtle for the block reveal, but it can make for an interesting animation. So I do like working with the delay of like opening things or like having things animate together. So you can start them at the same time and then just add different delay to the block reveal. So, you know, I could say 0.6, 0.4, and 0.2. So I'll add a 0.2 delay to the first block reveal. So when I preview and I open, I like that effect. The menu comes in, and then the blocks don't wait for the menu to fully finish. They start 0.2 seconds after, and it's kind of a quicker and a nicer animation. All right, so you could do the same for the second click as well. All right, I think that's it. I think we've covered everything for the full screen menu with the menu item animation on hover. If you have any questions about anything I covered, you can leave it in the comment section below, and I'd be happy to discuss or answer any questions. I know I covered a lot of information here, but yeah, I think it's a really cool effect and can make for a really nice menu. One last thing I'll cover, because I think this is helpful, is I'll add another section. So I'll click on the body, and I'll add a section, and I'll call this D-6 section 2, and I'll set the height to 100 VH, and I'll set the background to blue. So I just want to demonstrate why we set the menu to fixed rather than absolute. So now if I preview, we have two sections, and if I open the menu, I can continue to scroll, and we see the menu stays in place, and that's because it's fixed. It doesn't scroll with the rest of the site. So I would want to set the menu trigger to fixed as well, so it stays in the upper right. So no matter where the user is on the site, so I can scroll down, no matter where I am on the site, I can open the menu. And that's it. That's how we create the menu, the full screen menu with the menu item animation on hover. Looks good. All right, so that is it for daily interaction number 6. Tomorrow we're gonna build this menu trigger with kind of the hamburger, the stacked lines, and then it turns into an X. We're gonna build this tomorrow. All right, looks good. Let me just open it one more time and do this here. It's a lot of fun. All right, cool. Okay, so that's it for this video tutorial. To view more daily interactions and premium content, visit webdevforyou.com. Also, be sure to subscribe below to receive notifications every time there is a new daily interaction. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next daily interaction. Thanks.